If you're a Gen Z professional, have you ever felt that your boss just doesn't get you? Or if you are a recruiter, do you find Gen Zs the most frustrating generation to work with?
Lazy, entitled quitters. Gen Z have been labeled the hardest generation to work with.
Quitters are the hardest generation to work with.
Lazy. A new survey has found 60% of US bosses have fired their Gen Z workers, complaining that the younger generation want to leave early, start late, and expected to be paid a fortune.
Survey after survey, report after report claim that hiring managers struggle with Gen Z. Gen Zs are those that are born between the mid to late 1990s and the early 2010s. So mind you, a lot of the Gen Zs are not even close to entering the job market yet. Still, 1 in 6 companies say they'd avoid hiring a Gen Z, and 74% of the managers call them the hardest generation to work with. In fact, earlier this year, a viral BBC article reported that companies in the UK, US, Australia, etc. are struggling to manage Gen Z workers, with many employers branding them difficult, entitled, and unwilling to work long hours. In Japan, companies are frustrated that Gen Zs just refuse to participate in nomikai, which is the usual tradition of after-work drinking sessions, once seen as an integral part of professional life in Japan. Meanwhile, in India as well, major firms like TCS and Infosys are pushing for employees to return back to the office, only to face a massive pushback from the Gen Zs who prefer remote and flexible working. But are Gen Zs really the problem? Or are traditional workplaces just simply outdated? So my friends, let's put ourselves momentarily in a recruiter's shoes and imagine this. Let's say we are hiring a young candidate. You assign them a task which is slightly outside of their job description, expecting them to comply. But instead of the usual, yes, I'll do it, many of them might possibly say, well, that's not my job. Now, as a manager responsible for a Gen Z, it can be quite frustrating. But look at it from the perspective of the Gen Zs. They may believe that employers are still stuck in a mindset from the 1970s and 1980s, where job security was everything. Those were the times when employees used to work long hours without complaints, believing that loyalty would be rewarded with stability. But Gen Zs, I think they might just look at things slightly differently. And often, the attitude is why the employers are struggling with Gen Zs. According to a survey by Intelligent.com, employers' top complaints include lack of professionalism. They say Gen Z workers are more casual in their communication, preferring to use texts over emails, and often reject formal workplace etiquette. Some complain that Gen Zs have a poor work ethic, with many saying that they don't see the same drive to go above and beyond as the previous generations did. And some also say that Gen Zs have unrealistic expectations, where they want to work flexible schedules, they want to prioritize mental health, they want rapid career growth, and things that traditional workplaces are very slow to adapt to. Now, some companies are completely avoiding Gen Z hires because they don't want to deal with entitled attitudes, says the Business Insider survey from 2023. But is this really a Gen Z problem? Or is it just that the workplace expectations haven't caught up with the new generation? Okay, so one of the things I absolutely enjoy doing is mentoring young professionals because they are the future of the profession. I've worked with and continue to work with a number of Gen Z folk, and here's my very simplistic view of how I perceive this entire thing. For Gen Zs, work is not everything. For them, work is just a part of life. Unlike the previous generations who live to work, Gen Zs work to live. So naturally, when Gen Zs refuse to answer work emails outside of office hours, are they just lazy, or are they setting boundaries which actually should have been set a long time ago? Older generations may call this laziness, but Gen Zs actually call it having a life outside of work. Now, Boomers and Gen Xs were those that were taught job loyalty meant stability. So if you worked hard, the company would take care of you. And we even prided ourselves in our self-proclaimed strong work ethic, sometimes even looking down on those who didn't do the same. Millennials actually started breaking away from this mold with a mindset that they still worked slightly extra hours, but only when required to prove themselves. But Gen Zs, they prioritize work-life balance, mental health, financial security, which all I personally think is an absolutely good idea. I personally think they are also much more switched on and have a better understanding how business processes work than when I was a 20-something-year-old. They are from the information generation, so they watched dream companies lay off thousands overnight. So one thing that they don't believe in is blind corporate loyalty. A Deloitte study recently found that 49% of Gen Z employees would quit their jobs in 2 years if they felt either burned out or underpaid. Gen Zs are tech savvy, they are adaptable and results driven. And they focus mainly on outcomes and not much on effort. They believe in working smarter, not harder necessarily. The biggest disconnect between recruiters and Gen Zs comes from one thing, about how they define success. According to a report by McKinsey, Gen Z falls into two broad career categories. There might be more, but generally speaking, they are those that are really passion-driven workers. Now, these people absolutely love what they do. They dare to follow their passion and are willing to hustle at any given cost. The second category are those that seek a work-life balance. They just want a job that pays their bills without unnecessary stress. But here's the issue. Traditional companies expect employees to constantly hustle, be available 24/7, and put their careers above all else, including personal life. And when Gen Zs refuse, employees label them as entitled. But let's think for a moment, folks. Is this really entitlement, or is it just a shift in values? So when the work-life balance-seeking Gen Zs realize that they are expected to hustle, even in their seemingly low-stress job, they begin to question their choices. They begin to think that if they have to work this hard anyway, why not follow their passion instead of doing a 9-to-5 job where they have to endure workload pressure and sometimes demanding managers? So let's spare a moment, my dear friends. So who really needs to adjust, Gen Zs or the workplace? Now, here's the hard truth. Gen Zs aren't going to change. To be fair, their expectations aren't crazy. Just because we at that age were either too shy or too scared to question authority is just not their problem. If companies want the best young talent, they will have to adapt. Naturally, in this cycle of life, old always gives way to new, and companies just can't go on without ever hiring Gen Zs. Whether you like it or not, they are the future of our workplace. They are our future leaders, and they are the ones who are going to take businesses forward. Companies not only need to understand what Gen Zs want, but also need to put in some effort into understand their psyche and knowing what exactly makes them tick. Now, some of the findings have been real eye-openers for me, and I say this in a positive way. Recent studies reveal a significant decline in alcohol consumption amongst young adults, with many opting for fitness and wellness activities as social outlets. A survey by the Gym Group of the UK, I always take sponsored survey results with a pinch of salt, found that 37% of Gen Zs view exercise as a social activity, reflecting their health-conscious mindset. Politically also, Gen Zs exhibit a slightly complex relationship with traditional democratic structures. A study by Channel 4 titled Gen Z Trends, Truth and Trust, which is quite an interesting watch by the way, revealed that majority of the generation are skeptical about conventional democracy and advocate for effective governance, even if it means exploring alternative models like unelected leaders, military governance, etc. So the question arises, why is the Gen Z the way they are? Now, one of the possible explanations is growing up as digital natives, they've been immersed in technology right from a very young age. This constant connectivity has shaped them into highly collaborative, self-reliant, and pragmatic individuals. Results from the Stanford University describes Gen Z as deeply caring about others, striving for diversity, and valuing flexibility and authenticity. However, this digital immersion also comes with its own set of challenges. The pervasive use of smartphones and social media has often been linked to shorter attention spans and heightened anxiety. A study by Jonathan Haidt, a professor at NYU's Stern School of Business, argues that this constant digital engagement can hamper creativity and affect social skills. He suggests that embracing the idea that growth occurs through adversity can help mitigate some of these effects. Now, to bridge this generational gap, it is crucial to foster open dialogue. By appreciating the values and addressing their concerns, it is actually possible for us to create an inclusive and understanding workplace. After all, what is it that Gen Zs are expecting from the workplace? They would like flexible work practices and value remote and hybrid work, and companies that offer this will obviously attract more Gen Z applicants. They ask for clear job roles, and they don't believe in vague job descriptions of the past, where they end up doing the work of many people. And they also ask for an organizational commitment towards mental health support. Studies show that Gen Zs value mental well-being more than any other generation, and that's a lesson that we can all learn from Gen Zs. The truth is, companies that refuse to evolve will lose the top talent. There's no two ways about it. According to a 2023 study by LinkedIn, businesses with outdated work models are already struggling to attract and retain Gen Z applicants. In contrast, companies that offer flexibility, fair pay, and career growth are thriving. So, dear friends, are Gen Zs really entitled, or companies just failing to evolve, or being very slow to evolve? Do you think Gen Zs need to toughen up and work harder? Or do you think workplaces should modernize to meet the expectations of the new generation? Drop your thoughts and comments below, and we'd love to read and respond to them. If you like this video, don't forget to like and share, and subscribe to the Global Desis for more insights on work, life, and everything in between. See you in the next one.